Well, good evening. It is 6:30. I hereby call this meeting of the Worthington Board of Education to order. I am Amber Epling Skinner. I'm this year's president of the Worthington Board of Education. I would like to introduce my fellow board members. We'll start on this end because I feel like we always go this way. We have board member Sheena Costa-Flowers.
Good evening.
We have Stephanie Harless, Superintendent Dr. Trent Bowers, Treasurer TJ Cusick, and board member Kelly Davis. Nikki Hudson is out sick tonight. But we are thrilled that you're here with us. If you're able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jumping right in here, if I could get a motion to approve the agenda for the Board of Education meeting tonight.
So moved. Second.
Motion carries. Mr. TJ, Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa-Flowers.
Present.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Epling Skinner.
Yes.
Ms. Harless.
Yes. Motion carries. Did I forget to take attendance?
That's okay. You introduced everybody. I think that's fine.
Okay, all right. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Scott Brown. He is the regional liaison for the Ohio Auditor of State. He is here to present the district with the Auditor of State Award. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you. I appreciate a few moments on your agenda this evening to celebrate another job well done. My name is Scott Brown, and I do work for the State Auditor's Office this evening. And I serve as his Central Ohio liaison. To you, that means that I serve as your customer service representative. And I take pride that I can navigate our over 800 staff members in a manner that addresses your challenges as quickly as possible. Auditor Faber asked that I attend on his behalf this evening to present the Auditor of State Award with distinction to the Worthington City School District. Our office oversees nearly 6,000 clients statewide and conducts 4,200 audits annually. This award places your organization in the top 4% of those 4,200 engagements. The Auditor of State Award is presented to local governments and school districts upon the completion of a financial audit that meet the following criteria defined as a clean audit report. The entity must file financial reports with the Auditor's Office by a statutory due date without extension on a GAAP accounting basis and prepare a comprehensive annual financial report. The audit report does not contain any findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or other question costs. Breaking through all the audit speak, Auditor Faber would like to recognize the board, the administration, and the finance department that have done an outstanding job watching over every dollar. This award represents all of your staff and employees' hard work as they work constantly to attain accounting excellence. What this means is that across your entire organization, you have the people and the processes in place that understand fiscal accountability. We especially want to recognize your treasurer, TJ Cusick, for his outstanding leadership and commitment to protecting the finances of your organization. So on behalf of State Auditor Keith Faber, I would like to present the Worthington City School District, the 2025 Auditor of State Award with distinction. Congratulations. Oh, wait, hold on, the camera. There you go. That's you, man.
I just want to say thank you to Scott for being here on behalf of the Auditor State's Office. This award, while I'm here accepting it, I really do want to mention this is an award that is the result of the hard work of our classified support staff. So our building secretaries who handle cash, who handle fundraisers and student field trip money, they handle that with integrity. To our food service workers who process lunch payments, to our central office staff, our accounts payable staff who seemingly are inundated these days with fraudulent requests to change payment information, our payroll staff for paying people on time, our human resource staff for making sure people are certified and being paid appropriately. All of those folks are what drives this award. It just rolls up into a financial audit. But on behalf of all of them, Scott, thank you for their hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for making the trip to Worthington for that presentation. And I just want to amplify and elaborate on what TJ just said. I know you're so modest that you don't want to take any credit for this, but this really is, the buck stops with you, and this is an incredible testament to the commitment and the service that you offer to this district. And just so thankful for you and your professionalism. And I hope that the community members who are aware of this recognition recognize the rarity. 4% of your 4,200 audits. I mean, that's an incredible testament to just the quality of work that you and your team are doing here in the district, and just incredibly proud. So, all right. Moving now to agenda item B1, which would be visitor comments. I am going to read this disclaimer here as Vicki passes out who our speakers are for this evening. The school board and administrative staff encourage and appreciate community interest in meetings of the Board of Education. This section of the agenda is designed to hear the views of community members about their schools and items on the agenda. Each speaker will be asked to address the board at the visitor's podium so that the speaker's remarks may be clearly heard. The speaker should give their name and street address and limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. If more than 6 speakers are present, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Consistent with our policy 9130 on public complaints, we ask that complaints about particular employee be referred to the superintendent and not addressed during public session. We remind all speakers that our district values and respects all people as they are, and that our district is committed to creating and maintaining safe spaces for all of our students and community members. We want to remind our students or our community that we value public input and always appreciate when our community members remember our district's values, refraining from using harmful or offensive language, and for sharing your comments in a civil and respectful manner. It is not our usual practice to respond to remarks during the visitor comment section of our meeting. And so it looks like we do have Moving on now to agenda item C1, financial forecast update. TJ.
Thank you. Okay, so the fun award is over. Now it's time to get into the nuts and bolts of school funding and the 5-year forecast. So hang with me, I appreciate it. So today we're doing the forecast update. So I'm not going to get into the full details of line item by line item like we do in the fall. Remember, the forecast is done twice annually. The timing of that has changed. We're now on an August and February timeframe. So this is the update. This serves as a February update. I do want to remind folks what a forecast is, because I think some folks at our State House have kind of forgotten this. This serves a very technical purpose to sign multi-year contracts. It allows the department to evaluate districts that might be getting into financial distress. But the reality is this serves as a long-range planning tool, all right? A long-range planning tool. And so, there's talk to make it a 2-year forecast, a 4-year forecast. You'll see in my presentation, it's always going to be a 10-year plan, because that is what this is. This is a tool for us to manage the district's finances over the long haul. So just want to point that out. Again, right now, the forecast just includes our general operating funds. There is a rule out right now being proposed to include other funds, such as federal funds. Really what OD is pushing is because of that second bullet, that some districts have gotten into distress because they've used other funds that have expired and created a hardship. So they're good intention trying to get the bigger picture, but they already have all that data. And so I've been vocally opposed to putting other funds onto the forecast, because I simply believe that will be used against us during state budget deliberations. And those funds, remember, it's not like we're hiding them. They're very transparent, but they're used to supplement the general fund, not take the place of those. And so I think it's very dangerous if we begin to put other funds onto the operating forecast. Tonight there's not a lot of change. We just did the forecast in October, and it's February this first year, so not a lot of time has passed. I thought I'd take some time today to talk about some basic concepts in school funding, but also the 4 bills that were passed that, while they don't impact us directly in a significant way, I thought I'd take some time so that we understand what's going on with the rest of the state, because they are playing a big part in 400 some districts. So if I just start out real quick, the Constitution allows for taxing districts to levy a tax of up to 1%. And that's 1% is equivalent to 10 mills. So that's how we come up with the term inside mills. So it's inside the statutory limit to assess a tax without a vote. So those 10 mills are shared among county, city, township, school districts. So our share of those inside mills is 4.5 mills. And those do grow with inflation. House Bill 920 was enacted to sort of limit the outside mills, the voter-approved mills. So when a district passes a levy, it's a set rate, and then as reappraisal happens, that rate gets reduced because of House Bill 920, so that the levy collects about the same as it did the year before. So that's the concept of House Bill 920. The 20 mil floor is basically, if a district has only 20 mills, you can't go below that. So when reappraisal happens, if you only have 20 mills, you do get growth, much like inside mills. That's what we call the 20 mil floor. Many districts across the state were on the 20 mil floor. And so with these massive reappraisals that we've been seeing, that's where a lot of this angst has started. And then there are only certain types of levies that are counted toward the floor. Things like substitute and emergency levies weren't counted, so a district could have 20 mills, but they could have maybe 8 mills of emergency levy. They'd still be considered the 20 mil floor, and so the legislature wanted to address that. And so these 4 bills that passed, House Bill 129, that modifies what levies are counted. Basically, everything's now counted toward the 20 mil floor. So I think around 200 plus districts are coming off the floor now because all of their levies are being counted against the 20 mil floor. That's House Bill 129, does not impact us. House Bill 186 and House Bill 335 are similar in that they try to cap future increases. So 186 targets districts on the 20 mil floor. So if you're on the 20 mil floor and you get a reappraisal, they're measuring it against what they call the GDP deflator. So that's a national measure of inflation. Right now, that's, I think, over the 3 years, sitting around 9.5%. So if reappraisal is above that, then you wouldn't get the growth if you were on the 20 mil floor. That's 186. 186 had a interesting retroactive component to it. So they went back to 2023 and said a reappraisal in 2023, we're going to go back and cap what you've already collected the last 2 years. So homeowners are going to get a big credit, but it wasn't released in time. So the bills went out for the first half of 26. They're going to get a big credit in the second half of 26, and then their tax bill is going to go back up in 27. So that's going to cause a lot of confusion among taxpayers across the state. That's why schools were really opposed to this retroactive clause. The state did come through and pay for part of that, but I think that's going to, over the next 2 years, cause a lot of confusion across the state. Again, 186 doesn't impact us, although at the very end, they brought in credits. So this will positively impact Worthington schools. So residential property used to get 2 credits. So you get a 2.5% credit for owner occupied. So if you lived and owned in your home, you got 2%, but then you also got a 10% credit on just being residential property. And what the state is trying to do is reduce that 10% and drive it into the owner-occupied credit. So owner-occupied homes are going to get more of a credit over the next 4 years, and that 10% flat credit that was used on basically income-producing residential property is going to go away. So our residents should see benefit from that. House Bill 335 does impact Worthington schools, so it's the same sort of concept. If when we have reappraisal, those inside mills, so for us, those 4.5 inside mills would grow with inflation. They're going to cap that growth at whatever that GDP is. So the good news is this isn't retroactive. And what I say that this doesn't impact us much is because I was assuming in the forecast a 10% reappraisal. Now, to be clear, if we have more than that, it essentially would impact us. We're not going to get that growth. We're only going to get about 9.5%. But I wasn't projecting us, right? I wasn't allowing us to count on that. So that's why I can say that it's not impacting us, even though it may actually impact us, if that makes sense. And then lastly, House Bill 309 does concern me. This broadens the power of County Budget Commission. So the County Budget Commission consists of the county treasurer, the county auditor, and the county prosecutor. These 3 folks now have the power to reduce a levy, even a voter-approved levy, if they don't think that the school district or the taxing entity needs it. There was a clause in there that they couldn't reduce a voter-approved levy for 5 years. That was reduced to 1 year. So essentially, our voters could approve an operating levy. These 3 members could come the next year and say, we don't think you need that. We're reducing that collection. Now, they're supposed to have a hearing. What we've seen across the state so far is a couple counties up toward the lake. One out east, Stark County, I think, has begun to ask questions from school districts to testify at the County Budget Commission. We're not seeing that from Franklin County right now. But in all reality, one of the things that I think could happen is we could see a candidate platform of auditor, treasurer, prosecutor running on a platform of, hey, we're going to reduce your taxes. And they now have the power to do that unilaterally. And they may not even reside in the school district, right, because this is a county election. I don't know that most of us, when we vote for county prosecutor, think that person's going to reduce taxes. I don't think that sits. But so we've got to pay attention to that sort of thing in the future. So those are the 4 bills put out, and that's kind of what has happened across the state lately. So in terms of what's changing for us, like I said, not much. We're looking at a total revenue increase over 5 years of $4.6 million, total expenditure decrease of under $1 million. That represents less than a 1% change, really no change over the next 5 years. Just to get into a little bit more detail, real estate taxes is our main revenue source. Again, House Bill 335 could impact us, but I was projecting 10%. It's going to be 9.5 now. So at least at this reappraisal, I don't see that impacting our assumptions. Where we did get a positive bump is in state funding. As we went to all-day kindergarten, we get to count those kids, and when I got our final enrollment in this year, we do meet that 3% growth target. So we'll get an additional $2.6 million one time in '27 due to that higher growth. That's a one-time payment. So that's really what's driving the increase in revenue. We also have interest income. We continue, I'm like a broken record, we continue to see a slower decrease in interest rates. Our current Federal Reserve Governor's, his term expires in May. And so I think the appointee by the president will likely be someone who's going to push to cut rates. Whether that goes through or not, we'll see, but it's just they've been reduced slower than expected, so that's positive on our income. Just a reminder, so this is our total revenues, and this is that House Bill 920 effect. So as you see our incremental levy phases in from 22, you see that growth, and then really our revenue becomes flat. So when we talk to the community about, can we balance a budget? We balance a budget for a set period of time, but then expenses gradually grow. And the way House Bill 920 works is we have to come back and ask for approval of any increases. We don't get inflationary increases. So that's what this chart shows. On the expenditure side, like I said, not a lot of change in salary and benefits. That's our biggest expenditure category. We are having more retirements than expected. I expect to have about 20 retirements this year, so those are generally replaced with lower wage entry-level teachers. That creates savings in the long term. I do think the market will land, we're up for negotiations coming up. I do think we'll land slightly higher than I expected, so those two things will offset each other. The point of this chart here, we don't have much growth in staffing in this forecast, additional staff. I have one teacher and one aide in case they're needed, but it's pretty flat. And you see the updated enrollment projections in red show pretty much what we said before, flat growth, but it does have a little bit of a bubble, a little bit of a hump. And so my point here is that if we do see that little bit of growth in the short term, that could put pressure on a forecast where we don't have added staff. Now, hopefully those additional students come in all shapes and sizes and grade levels, and we don't need that additional staff. But if you can see on these two charts, so this is a visual effect. So this was the enrollment projections prior to this last one. You see red is a class size that's larger than average, blue is lower than average. And so you see this cooling effect coming from the top right, meaning that most of our classes in the future are going to be lower than average, and that's why our enrollment was starting to decline. This was before. So keep your eye on this, and you see this next one, the updated one, has a red band going down through the center because the next couple of years, that higher class size is going to work its way through. So still cooling off, but that's where that pressure is going to be to meet the expenditure categories in this forecast. Other expenditure areas, we updated supplies. We work with our APL team to roll out new curriculum over a 5-year period, so we've got that updated. We did get a one-time refund of county auditor tax collection fees. This year, we've incorporated that. Just as a reminder, if you look on the capital outlay line of our forecast, there's barely anything in it. We picked up and moved $48 million at the end of last year into a capital reserve fund, but we also picked up and moved about $2 to $3 million of capital expenditures and are charging that fund, right? So we picked up picked up the cash, picked up the expenses. We don't show those in here. That's in a different fund. There's obviously a lot of risks to what we're projecting here. 335 I've already addressed. The elephant in the room is the ballot initiative to eliminate property taxes. There could be more legislative changes. One that just got a hearing this week. I can't remember the number. It seeks to end continuing levies. So all of Worthington schools and many of our neighbors are continuing, meaning we don't have to go back and renew them. We have to go back and ask for growth, but we don't have to go back and renew the ones we have. This bill would seek to limit any levy to, I think they said 5 to 10 years. They debated that back and forth, but essentially it would force us to go back and ask to renew our revenue and then also ask for growth. So that could lead to a significant amount of levy fatigue. We don't know where inflation is going. You've heard me talk about medical expenses being probably my number one risk as we head into a world where there's a lot of multi-million-dollar drugs hitting the market. So we had a bad year last year, but things are starting to, at least started this year, back on track. So we're hoping that we can beat that 8% that I have in the forecast. We'll see. And then obviously, I assume flat funding in the state budget. We actually had a loss this past biennium, so a lot of treasurers will get criticized to say you can't expect them to keep you flat forever. I would counter that by saying I can't expect them to give us less money when we have more kids, but that happened. So, I would hope that we'll get some inflationary growth over the next biennium, but we'll see. And then we talked about enrollment being a question and where that goes. So what does all this mean? Well, you look, we're in a very stable position in the near term, right? At the end of this year, our ending unreserved balance of 88 million. Our targeted unreserved is 29.4. So our target fund reserve that the board has a policy on is 60 days of expenses, basically 2 months of expenses. So our policy says that if we're ever going to dip below that in the forecast, that we need to have conversations about how to address that. And so you see that happen in fiscal year 30. You see that we, as our revenue flattens out, that fund balance begins to deteriorate quickly. And then in fiscal 30, we end up with 35 million. That's below our target balance of 37 million. So that's why I would tell you back up a year, and in November of 28 is when we'd have to have conversations about a possible future levy. You see that in 31, that actually goes negative. And that's, so this chart is assuming no levies. If we move ahead to an incremental levy, right? So if we do another incremental levy in 28 and 32, like we've said, we're promised it's going to last 4 years. And we move back the money we moved to the capital reserve fund, right? So we moved it out of operations. This chart shows that if we move 34 million of that back, which is the balance, that's why in fiscal 34 you see a 16 million positive gain. I'm assuming we move that money back to operations. Basically, this says we can make it 10 years, so we're on a sustainable plan. We're $22 million short. But over 10 years, I'm comfortable in that situation. If we were to finish 1% or 2% under each year, we could easily make up that 22 million. But it's tight. The point of the graph is that it's tight. This is just keeping current programs continuous with a measure of inflation of about 4% a year. Certainly, we'll have to have conversations as we get into the elementary planning, what to do with that money that's sitting in the capital reserve. But what this chart shows is if we don't move that back, we'd have to make up 52 million, which would mean the operating income or the operating levy would have to be higher. But this chart shows that given the past community support, we have a motto of reasonable levies at reasonable intervals, and I think this is sustainable. But again, not a lot of wiggle room. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, TJ. Anyone have any questions? Stephanie?
I just have one very minor one. I feel like every time we talk about this stuff, I learn something else. It's like constant, but this is real small. We talk about inside millage. How do they determine how that is split and who gets what?
Yeah, I've been asked that before, and so it happened a long time ago, and I believe the way it worked was the rates in effect at the time, the proportionate rates. So they looked at, that taxing jurisdiction and that tax bill. And if, let's say, Worthington schools presumably had 45% of the bill of the total tax, we got 4.5 of the 10 mils. That's what I've been told. Something like that. Nobody really knows for sure.
So once it's agreed, and I'm going to ask this, not saying I'm advocating for this. Is that something that anyone has ever gone back and re-budgeted?
No, some districts have chosen to move the inside millage out of the general fund to like a PI fund and earmark them toward other things. Some districts don't collect the full inside millage. I think there are some areas that don't have all 10 mills collected. So I'm not saying that it is not allowed to be up for debate. I
Right.
just don't know of a district that has done that. I know they moved it around. Like, for example, I would be in favor of probably moving some of that over to the PI fund, not because the growth that gets would keep us off the ballot, would be meaningful to the permanent improvement fund that collects $4 million a year as opposed to, $150 million a year in the general fund, right? That would make more of a benefit to the permanent improvement fund. It wouldn't change our levy trajectory in the general fund, but it might in the PI fund. But then there's you get into a transparency issue, or you're trying to hide something, what are you doing? And so districts shy away from that, but financially, if I was just looking at the math, it would make sense to move, and some districts have done that.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Kelly?
I don't have any questions. You always do such a thorough job that you break things down. Like Stephanie, I do learn something each and every time. And so I just, I appreciate that there hasn't been much of a change since we did this in October. A lot of things to look forward to when it comes to legislation and how we advocate in a way that's beneficial for us but not hurtful for other districts. I think that's the big challenge, or a big challenge for us. But I don't have any questions. Thank you always for putting together such a thorough and breaking it down for people to understand report.
I don't have any questions either. All these mills, we just got to figure out what to do with them. Thank you, TJ. Thank you. I don't really have questions. I will just, echo just everyone's appreciation of how you break this down, and forecasting in an environment where there's so much unpredictability is just a remarkable skill in itself. Maybe I do have a question. If you have to look at just kind of the state of affairs right now at the federal, the state level, the fact that there are still some veto override possibilities coming in lame duck, if not before in the summer, what would you prioritize as just kind of, you mentioned the county budget that goes into effect, March 20th? I think those bills that already passed at the end of the year. So, what would you say is your, main priority going into the next 12 months?
I think a lot of focus is on the ballot initiative. I think the speaker basically said he didn't think there was going to get much movement on more property tax legislation before the end of this calendar year. How that may change, I don't know. Some of these bills you're seeing get introduced, like the continuing levies, would be a big thing, would be a game changer. But I don't know that has steam this year, just based on what the speaker's comments were. At the federal level, we do worry about some of those dollars. I budget, so in this forecast includes money and salaries in case we don't get, like this year, they're flat funding IDEA and Title I. Well, we're going to have to absorb some of those salaries into the general fund. So I have some of that budgeted in these numbers. Certainly, I don't have if that were to go away or be reduced in a meaningful way. That would change the forecast. So I don't know. I mean, I think we just wait and see on the ballot initiative, and what we're doing behind the scenes, like with GFOA. We're making sure people understand how we got here. The fact that, Ohio might be 8th highest in property tax, but we're somewhere in the mid to low 40s in state income tax. So, and in total tax, we're somewhere in the middle of the nation, which is probably where you want to be. So we've made choices to tax property over other things, and that's why we're here. Just making sure people understand that. Making sure they understand what's the alternative, right? The alternative is a high income tax or a higher sales tax. I think that's our message now, as we see what happens.
And then concurrently, there are the proposals to lower the income tax to 0 from what it's already been lowered to 2.5. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's the unpredictability of all of it. And I know you're monitoring it, and you'll keep us updated.
Yeah, and certainly we're looking. I started to look at. Westerville passed its first school district income tax, and would our community want to look at that? I think that's going to be a little bit eye-opening, because you heard the governor say the income tax or the sales tax would double. I think that's in Worthington. If I had to if I had to take away all property tax and replace it with income tax, it'd be close to 6%, which is high for a local tax. If we were to not do this next incremental levy, somewhere I'm modeling in about a 1 to 1.25% income tax. We'll engage the community, we'll engage TAC over the next year or two to see if we want to explore an income tax. Certainly has pros and cons. But I think nationwide, or statewide, we've got to figure out, what are we taxing and have we become too lopsided one way or the other?
All right. Thank you, TJ. Moving down through the agenda now, we are at D1, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. So our mission in Worthington Schools is to empower a community of learners who will change the world. We do that through our 4 vision statements. So our first vision statements, we will engage each student with diverse opportunities and maximize every student's potential. While it's still winter outside and up here at the board table, we are into our spring assessment season. So the Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment, which we call OELPA, is an annual mandated summative test for K-12 English learners in Ohio, which measures proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So these are our EL students. 945 students are expected to complete the OELPA testing, which began February 12th and will run through March. So 945 students. Our second vision statements will provide a safe environment where every student can grow intellectually, emotionally, socially, and physically. This past weekend, I was able to attend the Worthington Kilbourne musical Chicago Teen Edition. The performance was outstanding. Several weeks ago, the students from Thomas Worthington performed The Wedding Singer. We're thankful for our outstanding theater and music departments that collaborate together to allow our students the opportunities to gain confidence through performance. So, bravo. Our third vision statements, we will provide consistent communication and promote dialogue with our community. Our 2026 quality profile will be delivered to all households in the school district over the next week. So I brought a copy of the quality profile. Our communications team has done an outstanding job with this vehicle. You can see Miss Toya on the front of the quality profile. She's excited. But when you get your quality profile this year, you have to open, and then you can read, and then you open again, and there's more to read. And when we open again, we expect to see posters throughout the city of Worthington or the Worthington community. So we're excited about the quality profile, appreciate the work of our communications team. And we invite our residents to not only review the information when they get it in their mailbox, but also to find the invitation and the QR code for our State of the Schools evening, which is Thursday, March 5th at Worthington Kilbourne High School at 6:30 p.m. So we'd love to see everybody in our community there. And then fourth, we'll be responsible and transparent with our community's resources. Every 2 years, the male and female enrollments of Ohio High School Athletic Association member schools are used to determine the governance classifications in the Ohio High School divisions for each sport, so size of schools. The proposed enrollment figures for member schools are based on the number of students in grades 9, 10, and 11. So when we receive those from Ohio High School, you'll see that Thomas Worthington is projected to have 616 boys, and Worthington Kilbourne is projected to have 621 boys. Thomas Worthington projected to have 566 girls, Worthington Kilbourne High School 578 girls. Balancing high school enrollment was a goal of phase 1 of our master facilities process, and we're really excited about the balance that we have. President Epling Skinner, that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Bowers. Treasurer's Report. TJ.
Thank you. So for those longtime listeners out there, you may have noticed tonight that the use of our consent agenda has expanded. Historically, Worthington Schools has only used a consent agenda for personnel items in a very narrow way, but many districts around us and other governmental entities, for that matter, incorporate many routine items into their consent agenda in an effort to sort of get rid of this rapid fire roll call at the end of every meeting. And so we're going to try that out starting tonight. You'll notice that there are fiscal routine items, there are personnel items, and then there are operational items. So we'll see how that goes. This has nothing to do with lack of transparency. It's simply an efficient use of our time. And remember that any member can request that any item be removed from the consent agenda and voted separately. So if you're paying attention, you'll see a little bit of a change to our agenda tonight. And then speaking of appropriations, tonight is one of the few nights where those appropriations don't net out to zero. And that's because we are actually decreasing the general fund to line up with the revised 5-year forecast. We're also increasing the severance fund because I mentioned we had higher retirements. So those are savings long-term, but we do pay out more severances in the current year when they retire. And then the changes to the other funds are mostly the Department of Education slightly adjusting our grant allocation. So they come up with an estimated amount at the beginning of the year, and then based on enrollment, they tweak your title funds. And so this is one of those times where those change slightly. And then lastly, through the efforts of Tracy West, our transportation supervisor, and her team, we were awarded a competitive bus safety grant that will be used to fund more illuminated signage on our buses and collision avoidance systems. So that's on there for approval. Congratulations to Tracy and her team. President Epling Skinner, that's my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cusick. Moving now to board committee reports and assignments. Kelly, do you want to start us off?
I will. Let me turn to my page here. I attended a vibe check at Worthington Kilbourne High School, and they're continuing there. I just love the way that that's evolving. I know I say it every time. We all say it every time about just how the conversation just is building upon one another, and I feel like the students are really connecting with the work that they're doing, they're putting into it. And so I just appreciate being part of that conversation and hearing some, pushback, like they're, saying certain things about not having an impact or not feeling that they're having an impact, and us adults in the room saying, you very much have an impact in how you influence other people around you, even if it's not in your circle, how it broadens out. So just continuing those conversations. I attended the Worthington Hills One World, One Night event, which was really good. As usual, they passed out passports and pencils, and different families and students put together different presentations around different countries around the world. Some people had like food samples and stamps and stickers, and the Thomas Worthington Cardettes came and performed, and I think there was a Girl Scout troop that came and gave a presentation. And of course, Toya spoke to the group, and Principal Miller as well. So just a really good community engagement. So I just appreciate that invitation for that event. And then we just ended our communications. We had our communications meeting right prior to this. So we got a little sneak peek into the State of the Schools, which is Thursday, March 5th, just in case you, at Worthington Kilbourne High School, 6:30. But I think you'll be really impressed with how our communications team and just all of our staff have worked really diligently to put that together for us. So there is like a little theme of resilient learners and engaged staff. And so we liked that, like little points of that we're caring, we're involved, and I'm not trying to give it all away, active and driven. And so just the woven themes throughout, just interviewing different staff and teachers and just seeing how this, our big school district comes together, right? So that we can make a path for each student. Someone mentioned that today, that, a path to learning looks different for each student, right? And so that we as a district recognize that, and what does that help look like? What does that particular student need? Who does that particular student need that from? So that was really helpful. We talked about a communication audit that took place early, like maybe late fall, early winter. And so the communication team is going to go through that report that they received back. Amber and I talked a little bit about maybe having a presentation here at the board meeting about what they took from that audit and maybe what they are looking to put in place as a result. So they'll review it and discuss it in a little while. They're trying to get through the State of the Schools first, which is Thursday, March 5th, 6:30. And then we got a peek at the quality profile. So that should be hitting houses as early as tomorrow, perhaps. And so, and then there is an invitation there for the State of the School. So that's just really nice. And that's all I have.
Stephanie?
I would say I've had a slow 2 weeks, it doesn't feel slow, but we had a finance committee meeting. I think we've covered that this evening. And I also attended a vibe check at Thomas, similar to what Kelly said. I think, Toya came up with this idea to make it a consistent group of students, and I think it's so cool to watch them evolve and grow as a group. And I think that we're going to continue to see that year over year as well as the program gains even more momentum. So I'm excited to watch that happen. They were working on, at Thomas, their project to find ways to connect with other students' stories. And so they were talking about doing like a period in the Commons where they could record positive messages. And then they came up with different themes that they could do throughout the rest of the year. So I'm really excited to see that stuff come to fruition and just watch this program grow. And I also attended One World, One Night at Worthington Hills. So this is my second year going, and I love it. They did the book fair on the same night, which I thought was a fantastic idea. So you had kids bouncing from book fair to the gym, and they were all really excited to share their experiences and all of that. So it was fantastic. I would love to, Sheena and I were talking about, we would love to see that expand to other schools too. So they did a really good job. And that's all I got.
Sheena?
Hi, everyone. So I was fortunate enough to attend the Share the Love event at Sutter Park, where we did a lot of sharing of the love. It was a great opportunity for kids to visit sensory tables and enjoy a little dance party and decorate their own cookies. And I think it was a great way to engage students, parents, and the community with our educators and staff there. So thank you for having me. My son, all three of my children had a blast. I also attend One World, One Night and learned about Cambodia, Brazil, Japan, Ecuador, Egypt, just to name a few. And just like Kelly and Stephanie mentioned, I can't wait to see other schools expand that with our support, of course, and so that I can visit the countries around the entire world through our students here in Worthington. I attended the Finance Committee meeting with TJ and Stephanie, which is why I didn't have many questions. So thank you for being so thorough then and this evening as we continue to dig into the impacts of federal and local legislation on our finances. Appreciate that. I attended the Insurance Committee, which of course is very insightful. And as most of you are aware, just nationally, we see medical costs increasing. We see pharmaceutical costs increasing, and that impacts our schools and staff and educators just as much as anywhere else, whether you're in the public or private sector. So, high cost claims continue to drive spend, especially cancer-related claims. But, overall, just like anywhere else, medical claims are up. I do have some cautious optimism around biosimilars being reduced to kind of help with our drug spend. And so that's something that, it remains evolving. And so our adoption of that, I think, is probably sometime in the future, but it means that maybe we'll get a break on the pharmaceutical side. We had just great conversations about some opportunities on just general cost savings, as well as program utilization around our employee assistance program. So use it, you all. It's there for you. We work with a company called Matrix that offers 8 free visits as part. So this is the shameless plug for that. So, but you can seek care on not only therapy, but also childcare and identity theft. And, there are different opportunities for that particular benefit. So if you're listening, check it out, Matrix. And we heard from Gallagher, our consultant, and they were able to provide some very, just insightful information for me, especially being a newcomer, on where we've come, with the plan and how we can continue to design it in better ways to meet our needs. And so, that's about it. I think I can hand it off to you now.
All right, thank you. Let's see, my last 2 weeks, several of the things that you all have already mentioned, the vibe check at Thomas Worthington that I attended with Stephanie. I just, there's so many great student ideas on how to connect with their classmates. I love the collaboration. I love the comfort that they feel with one another after so many sessions that they've had together. Also attended One World, One Night at Worthington Hills, and just love that community and love that event every year. You know, the students really get into those presentations that they do, and it's just so fun to kind of take a trip around the world with them. Also, communications committee that's Kelly already mentioned. Definitely in favor of hearing like some kind of presentation or something. I think with Vicki and the team to this board, I just think that they're doing so much great work and information from the audit as well as the new website. We haven't really like dug into that, and the communications committee kind of has talked about that and just the usability and the chat bot and everything. But I think this board would enjoy hearing some of those updates too. Spring sports have begun. Worthington Kilbourne is out. The boys lacrosse team is out selling mulch. If you need any mulch, bought some mulch over the weekend. Chicago was fantastic. My goodness, like the sets and the props and the talent of these students. It's just, I had to keep kind of reminding myself this is a high school production and not, you know, something that I'm seeing on Broadway or something. It was really impressive. They put a lot of work into that. Solon Ensemble at McCord, that's just another, you know, showcase of just our band and our band programs and just the talent at the student level for that too. I don't know, I talked to Kelly briefly about this. If you all have had a chance to take the U Science exam that Emily said, I just got around to it this past weekend. So Friday was when I finally took it. And I was really, really impressed by, I mean, it was spot on. It identified all of my things, but it breaks out the careers that match, you know, my personality traits and everything. And so it had PR professional, it had, I think elected official might have been one of them. It had, you know, so all of these jobs that I've either wanted to do, like lawyer, and never got to do, it was spot on. So the idea that our students are taking this at such an impressionable age where they're trying to find their path in life, and it's kind of, you know, it's spot on. So I don't know. It was kind of fun. It took several hours though, so make sure you got the time to commit to it. That would be. But I would encourage each of you to do it too. And I have a legislative update. I think those are all of my things that I have here. But the legislative update, because I didn't do it last meeting, although TJ knocked some of this out with the property tax, but I'll try and be quick. But it's kind of important stuff because this. The lawmakers are back. They're kind of, you know, hitting it pretty intensely right now because they're planning to go through maybe July and then take much of the summer and the fall off because it's November election and it's midterms and many of them are on the ballot, so they're going to be campaigning. So we're looking at a lot of activity at the legislative level, state level until July. Probably a big break from November, and then we've got lame duck. So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at here. But OSBA, they're tracking 200 plus pieces of legislation that's related to public ed, and every day there's more bills introduced. So more ideas, just keep on coming. The capital budget, I mentioned this to TJ, I'll share with you too, Trent. There's a March 12th deadline. That's when anyone who wants to get requests to their legislative members, your senators, your reps, that's a submission form, I guess. You can request projects if we need anything. I am, you know, not aware, but just sharing with this group. Also, as we think about the time frame, you're going to probably see some bills that might make some headlines that really don't have legs because they have these deadlines. If you get a House bill introduced by May 15th or a Senate bill introduced by April 1, you're guaranteed one hearing. So you'll see some bills that sort of get some attention, but you know, it's kind of unwarranted. The bills that have passed, TJ went through the property tax bills. Those are all effective March 20th. The House Bill 10, I don't think you mentioned, that also passed. That is going to require some action from the property or the policy committee just because it requires each public school to adopt a policy to prevent the purchase of cultivated protein food products or food misbranded as meat or egg products. So just flagging that one. I was on the call this morning with the OSBA legislative team, And they talked about the constitutional amendment effort, and nobody really knows how many signatures this group has. They have to get 413,000 valid signatures from 44 of 88 counties, and they have to do it by July 1. So, it's a tough thing to do, but if they do, that's when we'll know is this summer if they're going to go to the ballot or not. Bills that are moving, just 7 of them to flag for you here, that have either had a few hearings in the committee level or have passed one of the houses. So there's House Concurrent Resolution 22. That's the one that encourages students to read the Declaration of Independence in the classroom. Not a mandate, just an encouragement, but that's moving. And that is in recognition of the celebration that's happening this year for the country's, what is it? It's not, what is it? 250, yeah. I was trying to think of the word. It's not bicentennial, it's like yes, the 250 celebration. House Bill 326, that's the one that makes changes to graduation assessment for college. So right now there's the ACT and SAT tests, but this bill would allow for schools to determine that maybe other tests could be offered, like the classic learning test added to the list of options. That bill is moving. House Bill 500 is junior ROTC would be added as a career technical program. That one has bipartisan support, and that one is moving. House Bill 25, that's a foster scholarship bill, which would designate a foster staff person in the building to help with foster care needs and require districts to post on the website who that person is and contact information, and requires training for those staff members from the state. That one also has bipartisan support and is moving. There's 462, that is kind of the new iteration. There was an EpiPen law that was passed a few years back. Now I guess that medicine is you can get it through nasal delivery. So this is just kind of amending that. That's expected to move. That's in Senate Ed, no opposition to that. 455 is the omnibus. And that one, there's just a lot in that one. That's in Senate Ed now, and it's moving, but kind of, I'll just encourage you to look into that, because like I said, there's a lot to that bill, 455. Senate Bill 19 is Brenner's bill. It's the one that is about mathematics. I understand the House Ed Chair has some amendments she wants to make. There's no funding related to this, so it's an unfunded mandate, but I guess Brenner has said on the record that he would want to tap into the rainy day fund to do this, which kind of seems off-brand, but that's what his plan is for that one. And then just really quickly, I know this is kind of long, I apologize, this is like 2 months worth. Bills introduced recently, I've got 5 of them. There's House Bill 661. This one, it prohibits the name, image, and likeness for middle and high school students. It would overturn OHSAA policy that was adopted just in November, and that would allow students to enter NIL agreements. So this is an amendment of that. I guess 44 states permit high school students to enter into NIL deals. Only 5 states allow the agreements through legislative action. So this is just kind of another example of the GA sort of micromanaging OHSAA. It's moving fast though. It's going through the House. Sounds like leadership is driving this. Unclear what's going to happen in the Senate, but it's moving through the House. House Bill 671. So this is the one that would cut funding for school districts suing over vouchers. It only has one sponsor. And it kind of seems to me like it's more of a message than anything. He's kind of already stepped back from the original proposal, which would be to strip funding to any school district that's involved in the lawsuit over vouchers, which is Worthington, but also 330 other school districts, rural, suburban, and urban, all over the state of Ohio. So again, one sponsor. There's concerns over constitutionality, like First Amendment. There is there doesn't seem to be any plans for hearings or co-sponsors. So that's just that one. It's getting a lot of headlines though, just because, so, but that's one of those bills I feel like it's just, probably not going to move, but who knows? And then three more. Sorry, House Bill 674. This is the one that public-private schools would create a transportation network company. And it's having its first hearing in House Ed this week. I think it's tomorrow, but don't quote me on that. But it is in House Education, 674. And 684, House Bill 684, that would be changes to ed service centers. And also address how board members fill vacancies. And then finally, House Bill 690 relates to school crossing guards and gives harsher penalties for people who do not stop in those areas and increased penalties if someone is hit in the school crossing area. So those are some of the bills that were just recently introduced, and sharing those. Also wanted to flag save the date if you all want to attend the state legislative conference. That's going to be on March 24th. I know Stephanie's gone in the past. Can't remember if you have gone to that one, but that's a pretty good one. They always have like a legislative panel where the lawmakers just kind of talk about some of this stuff, but you get kind of a little bit more color of like what's going on behind the scenes and what has the likelihood of passing. So that is a legislative update. Like I said, sorry, that was like 2 pages. And I'm sure that there's tons that I missed. Those are just the things that I thought were worth flagging for everybody.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
Maybe anybody can answer this. I've seen 326. I know there are a lot of concerns around adding a different way, a graduation assessment. Does anybody know what the thinking behind it is? Like, I don't know why it was introduced or what the end goal is.
I was gonna say, I haven't seen the sponsor testimony, but.
Yeah, I don't think most public schools there'd be any change. I think it's more catering to classical schools.
Oh.
So I'm not familiar with this
Say
assessment.
that louder for
but
Kelly.
I said, I don't believe it would have impact for most of our public schools. I think it's catering to classical schools, which is
Okay.
like a type of school that is sometimes private, sometimes charter.
Right. Okay, that makes sense, actually.
Because it's my understanding too that you're not required to
Right.
Correct.
drop
Right.
the AZ, so it would just
Right.
be.
Right. So, I mean, to be clear to anybody listening in Worthington schools, we would stick with our SAT because that's
Okay.
what our families would want us to
Right,
do.
right.
That helps them as students are moving to college. We were an ACT district. We made a switch to the SAT. We really wouldn't have any conversation about this other optional test that we've actually never heard of.
Okay, because it's optional, okay. And I saw the junior ROTC as well, but that just opens up options, right? It's not mandating anything.
So what that would do is some school districts have junior ROTC, and that would count it as career technical education. And the state has some requirements on how our students meet career tech education. And so this would just allow that to be
Okay.
counted if that was something you had, but wouldn't mandate that you have to have
Okay.
junior ROTC.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Moving along in the agenda, looks like we are at E1, which is approval of the consent agenda. Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. I just want to, again, as we spoke about earlier, we've expanded the consent agenda. So I do want, you're going to be asked to approve the minutes and appropriation modifications. You're going to be asked to the traditional personnel consent agenda. And then the third thing, or the third bucket that you see is authorizing 2026, 2027 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So that's an annual resolution that the board has to pass and that we need to pass for our students to be able to participate in Ohio high school sports. So with that, I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda. That's items F1 through H1. Items F1 through H1, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Epling Skinner.
Yes.
Ms. Harless.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa Flowers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Sorry. So I did ask TJ and Amber, but just so you both know, about like what item, we talked about this, about putting it all together, which I appreciate. And that these were routine things, and what's the word you use, cyclical. So, because I asked about the sporting, the athletics, and that's not something we do in every meeting, obviously, but we do it annually. So that's why it's included in there. So just making sure that when we're doing the consent agenda, my Kelly Davis perspective is that we're doing things that are very routine, happen in every meeting pretty much. But anything that comes up that we're gonna have to vote on that's just
Yeah.
extra or something is not routine, I guess would not be included in that.
And it doesn't change our option to
Right, remove it.
make a motion to pull something out and discuss it. So
Right.
that's still there.
Yeah.
Right.
But I like it.
Yeah, thank you for that. F1, this is the approval of the minutes. This is one of the new consent agenda items, TJ.
Yeah, you're down to I-1.
Oh, we're I1, okay, all right. I see. So I'm sorry, I was looking at the agenda. I see multiple consent agendas, but we voted for all of, okay. Gotcha. I1, actions recommended by the treasurer, new business.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the board approve the financial forecast as presented and discussed earlier in enclosure I-1, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Epling Skinner.
Yes.
Ms. Harless.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa Flowers.
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries. Request questions, concerns from the board. Anyone have anything?
I think we wanted to maybe nail down our work session date today. So we have those two options in April. We have two meetings in April, and we wanted to turn one into a work session. So I think Amber and I thought it would be a good idea to just maybe decide that today while we are here, if we are in the position to do so.
Okay. I thought we had already decided on 13th.
Oh, did we? I
Either
mean-
day works for me.
13th is great. We
Yeah.
may have just missed that.
It's okay.
So I'm good with that. Okay.
Okay.
So we will still pass anything or vote on anything that we need to pass, but then we'll do our work session here at 6:30, yes?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, great. And then I think leading up to that, I think Amber's ask was to look at the board priorities and add any additional comments in the document. So again, if anybody doesn't have access, I started it, let me know. Otherwise, just,
We can't all access it.
you download a copy, make notes, and then,
Bring it in April.
yeah.
Yeah. The thought just being when we're in there in real time and trying to
Right.
think of edits, it'll just make things a little quicker.
Yes. I mean, I totally understand
Yeah.
that part of it, but just we can't all work on a document at the same time outside of a meeting.
Yes. I'm trying to think of ways
Just
that we
two of
could do
us.
this more efficiently in the future, like if we all lock our comments and nobody can see them. We'll have to think about that just so that we can, I like source control. Okay.
Okay, so April 13th, same time.
Yep.
Same place.
We'll work on an agenda.
Yeah.
I guess if there's anything else that we want to cover too, send it to Amber.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I was just looking at the legislative, because I know that OSBA has the legislative platform, and they always want our feedback by a certain date. So I'll try and look that timeline up, because I feel like that might be something that we want to get a little bit more involved in than we have in the past. Just after my assembly last year and watching that all go down. But I don't have that at my fingertips right now. That just occurred to me
Okay.
as I was thinking. So that might be something to tack onto the agenda, but I will let you all know. If it's
Good
still
idea.
6 months out, then we can just revisit it later, but
It's usually the end of May that you
I was
have to
thinking it
turn
was
in a
coming up in the
resolution.
spin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the spring, okay. All right, any other concerns from the board? No? So that just brings us to our calendar. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 9th at 6:30 PM here at the Worthington Education Center, where we will be hearing about CKLA and Amplify. We will have March 23rd, another board meeting, same time, same place. That will be a technology update. And then on April 13th, we have replaced that one with our work session. So it will still be at 6:30 PM for anyone who would like to attend. It still is open to the public, but that will just be us working on our board goals. So. And now, if I could get a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second,
or we can just stay here.
we'll just stare at each other.
Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Harless.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa Flowers.
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Epling Skinner.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a good evening.